what I want you to do is introduce yourself to everyone, and then talk about a little bit about your past and what you're currently working on, just real briefly, starting with Lee. Lee?
Hey everybody. All right, I'm Lee Perkins, I'm an actor, which means if you got a dog that needs to be walked or a car washed. Okay. I grew up in St. Pete and then moved to California for high school and college. Lived a little all over, including England on 3 different occasions. I've studied in New York, I've studied in London, and I've studied in Los Angeles, which means I've spent a shitload of money. So, recently, let's see, I was in the Oscar-nominated Foxcatcher opposite Steve Carell, and then Woodlawn. Please hold applause. Woodlawn opposite John Boyd. And I've actually worked with Gary Busey, who's right here. Please, everybody say hello to Gary. He's kind of shy. I actually worked with him about 8 or 9 years ago in a film that never got finished, and that's a whole new, different story. So that's me. Thanks, everybody, and that's the last time you'll hear from me.
What? Is that film Wisconsin's?
Which
wasn't finished?
No, it was called Days. It was.
All right, we got to keep moving. All right, next.
Hi, my name is Mark Jude Sullivan. I'm here with a film called Bear With Us that will be tomorrow at 1:15. Thank you. And currently working on, we just wrapped a series with the Fine Brothers for YouTube Red. It's their new paid subscription service. It's a 10-episode comedy with Missy Pyle, and so I'm pretty excited about that. We just had a screening at Tribeca, and I like this festival more.
Okay, Tara Westwood. I also just had a film screen at Tribeca called Almost Paris. I'm here for Detours. We have our film tomorrow that I'm in and produced along with Maura Lessman tomorrow at 6 p.m. called Detours. And I just wrapped a feature film called Karma Club, and I just wrapped an episode of Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll with Dennis Leary.
Hi, I'm Rose Rosen. I think I'm Florida's newest Casting Society of America member. I have a phone today, so I'm sorry. And yay! And I've been here for, 25 years. I hate to say that. And way back in the day, I cast Edward Scissorhands.
Yes.
It was sweet. And currently, I'm working on a million commercials. Florida may not be the next film market right now, but it is a booming commercial market, and I can't drive that point home more than anything. Anyway, and everybody has. We're all working, thank God. Everybody would kill for our commercial business. So anyway, we do great films too, and that'll come back too. Anyway, thanks for having me.
My name is Jason Matthew Smith. I'm a bit of a Sunscreen veteran. Currently, I just finished shooting Star Trek 3 Beyond. That's coming out July 20th, I think. That it's coinciding. It's the 50th anniversary of Star Trek, and they're doing a big event at Comic-Con this year, and it's opening nationwide during Comic-Con, which would be pretty cool. And then I'm currently developing a feature film that my wife has created and written, so we're in the process. We're in the middle of doing that right now.
Hey, my name's Saban Mayfield. I'm a director. I live in Los Angeles. I just finished a film called Boomtown, starring Rachel Brosnahan and Boyd Holbrook and Dwight Yoakam. And I'm down here participating in the panel, or in the festival, in a couple panels, and doing some prep work for my next film, which is going to shoot in St. Pete in the fall, called
My first read always is just whatever you bring to the room. I give you, whatever the prep is, and I don't say a word. And so I want to be surprised. And then the second read, I'm gonna try and get you to where I believe the director wants you to be. I'm just that middleman. You know, my opinion means little. You know, it doesn't, yeah, I mean, you think it means so much, but honestly, I'm trying to work for him, and I'm just trying to make you the best you are for him, or her. For sure, or her.
So your point, I mean, casting, like, if you got bad casting, like, you're a sinking ship, you know, and casting is a creative field, it's a collaborative effort, and people try to minimize it. I don't know why, but they do. I was fortunate enough, my mom's a casting director, her name's Lorraine Mayfield.
Wow.
So when I started working in film, I worked in various positions and worked for her for a short time. So my appreciation for casting and what actors do is I don't want to say it's greater than anybody else's, but it's the starting point for me. I had watched a film the other day, and my friend's like, yeah, well, look at the editing, look at the shooting, and I'm like, yeah, well, the acting fucking sucks. So, which is like, he's like, yeah, but did you see the cinematography? I was like, no, because I couldn't get my head around bad acting. But it's like, I don't even know that surprise is the thing that I'm looking for, but what I'm looking for is, I want to make sure that I'm not being fooled. You know, like, to me, when it comes to acting, like, pressure bust pipes. Like, you might come in the room and kill it on day 1, but what happens at day 13 when we've done 13, 18-hour days? Like, are you going to completely fall apart? Which I've had happen, you know? So, you know, I also defer, you know? I'm fortunate I get to work with my mom, but I also know a lot of other really talented casting directors. So, you know, I defer to their wisdom. They're on the front lines, like, meeting the most actors on the most consistent basis. So it's like, that's what's the beauty about it. I share my vision with you, but I also know that
For sure, we'll
that
tell
your
you if they're gonna
experience,
show
like,
up or if they're gonna be jerks.
yeah, it's like, you're not gonna put somebody on set with me. If they come in the room and they're hard to deal with, like, what do you think they're gonna be like when there's like thousands or millions of dollars on the line of the day, you know?
Well, we were just talking about, as an actor coming into an audition, what is your strategy? Like, can we start with you? Like, what is your strategy when you were having to audition?
I was trained with a man named Jim Best, who trained me in film technique and film awareness and film technique. And I majored in theatrical arts at Oklahoma State University, so I did classical theater. And when I met him, he was the head of new talent and Screen Gems, working for Renee Valente. And he asked me to come to his workshop. And I showed up to meet him with 3 scenes and a monologue. So he taught me what happens on a set, like how you can meet a 2-shot with somebody like this, a 2-shot, here's the actor here, and the camera's on this actor, and when you're working, you can throw a shadow across his lips, and he'll lose the scene. Little tricky things. And one great thing to do is to go around to every head of every department and say, I'm new here, so if there's anything I can do to help you, please let me know. My first show was High Chaparral, a Western, in 1970. I had no dialogue. I was only supposed to hit Leif Erikson in the face with a stick while he was sleeping. But because of my technique and I know where to be in the marks, I ended up working 3 days with 7 lines. But the most important thing you must understand to learn is taking a script that you're going to read for the part. And they send you out 5, 6, 7 minutes. Maybe the script is 3 pages long. And you read your lines to yourself out loud. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do when I get home. The next line that's being said to your character, you read silently. And you do that 20 times in a row. Then when you go back into the meeting, you put the script in this chair, you were sitting here, you go over and look at something on the wall that caught your attention, and I'm looking at it, and the director, I said, where did this come from? The director says, my daughter made me that for Father's Day. I said, oh, and the director's here, I'm here, the chair's there, and Lynn Stallmaster, casting director here. Lynn says, Gary, you ready to do the scene? Bam! First line comes out. I'm walking behind the director, and I give him Lynn like this, right down in his face. Oh, I got the job. You need to know what you're going to say before you say it. Therefore, when you say it, they will know you know what you're doing. That cold reading. and innocence in your eyes, and never blink in a close-up. I learned that from Bob Redford. Don't ever shut your eyes when you got a close-up, because you'll lose the spirit of the audience connecting with your spirit of your character on the screen. Okay. How about that? Said the cat in the hat. Okay, I'm done. Well, I got news for you. Whatever you want me to stop talking, just say one word, cut.
You may not hear it, because we don't hear it.
What?
Okay, for auditions, I think the biggest thing that I know as an actor and having been a producer for detours, make a really, really strong choice. Because even if it's not the right choice, it's not boring compared to no choice. So make a hugely strong choice, and then they'll see that you can do something, and then hopefully you'll get direction to go another way. But that's definitely something that I want to do when I'm in that room.
Oh, that's great. And you know what else is fun to do? Take the scene and manifest in your creative mind. I'm going to take the letters that spell fart. Your definition, because that, I thought that. No, I'm kidding. FART stands for feeling erectile transmission. Everyone does it. I mean, you can fart on an elevator and say, let's play Name That Smell. It works. Now, where was it?
Before I farted.
All right, Jason's strategy.
Oh, I know. There's five. Always have in your heart, your art heart, that you can do this scene 5 different ways. Let them know that when you're asked to read again. Or say, I could do it again. I'd like to try this. Whatever. Okay. I'm not on the floor anymore.
You're always on the floor, Gary.
Yeah.
For me, going in to an audition, it's very important to be prepared, as they were both saying. You have to know what you're doing. You have to be prepared. For me, I used to struggle a lot with nerves, getting in the room, and then, you know.
Who's Merv?
Nerve. Merv too. I didn't like Merv either. But nerves, you know, they end up killing your work, your art. So the way that I was taught is to prepare and then let it go when you're in the room and be able to let it flow and bring some improvisational skills to it as well. But have a very clear, definite plan of a beginning, middle, and an end for whatever it is. And sometimes you don't get much time to prepare. You know, sometimes it's the night before, sometimes it's an hour before, sometimes they hand you a 28-page screenplay when you get there, and you're like, memorize it all in an hour, which is, you know.
Memorize it all in an hour?
Yeah.
You got to get a different agent.
Write that down. That's the next lesson.
But you know, they do that sometimes with top secret projects that they don't want anybody to see. They, you know, will give it to you when you get there, and at least in my book, and it's difficult. You got to make those clear choices and clear decisions right away.
You know, that's a good point you made, because Richard Brooks, a great director, he directed a film called The Professional with Lee Marvin, Burt Lancaster, Robert Wright, and Woody Strode. And they never got the script. They get the 6 pages they're going to shoot that day. And it was like you had to be bam, powerful on that. And you put that all together, you got nothing but power without reading it until it's time to perform.
Save and throw on the other hat, the acting hat. And how do you know, you come from the other side, but you've also acted. How do you prepare?
Oh, no, I mean, that's like just, that's literally for shits and giggles. Like, I did a movie with I produced a movie for a friend of mine, and he was like begging me. He's like, you just got to do this little role. And that is like, I have great respect for actors and what they do. I start sweating profusely. It's like not my deal, you know. But having done workshops, having done so much work, it's like, when you have so much respect for what they do, at least to me, from a director, it's been so been so easy to speak their language. You know, there's no buffer with how I need to express myself to say, hey, this is where I'm getting the scene, because I can understand where they're coming from, and you know, from casting and producing and directing, seeing the process that they go through. You know what I mean? Whereas, like you were saying, if you get something in an hour before, a lot of times now, actors haven't come to the office, they're reading the shit off an iPad. You know, they can't take it, they can't do anything with it, you know, so you kind of factor that in when you're working with them, and know that they're coming in with a certain amount of like stress and nerves into the situation, you know, so I think having that, you know, it helps.
You know, it's good to know where theater began. It began in Greece before Christ. It was called the Festival of Dionysus, and it was a fertility ceremony. And all the Greek men would line up, you know, smashed together to see how they felt. And this was an amphitheater, and the stage was flat, so they started doing theater. That's where theater began. And the men, all the men would be in the play, no women. And they would wear bushkins, which were boots with heels aside, because the stage was flat, it wasn't raked up. And they would hold masks with little megaphones behind the mouth. And they would do all the acting, all the acting. But you must remember, acting came from Greece. And that's a trick word, because the truth of a performance is that acting is the absence of acting. It's believing in the truth of the moment you're creating at that time from your heart. And that cannot be beat, because that comes from the truth you are and the truth you own.
Gary, let's just go right with you with the next question, which is, what is the process then when you do receive a specific character in a script? What do you do to get to that truth once you've received it from the writer or the director? What do you do?
You know, I received scripts before that I read it and went, this is not me, I don't feel this. If you don't feel the character in your heart, like when you're reading, you go, oh man, you have another vision of something that the character did that you relate to. And so you get this character going, like for instance, Buddy Holly. That was the Academy Award nomination, and I sang all the songs. But I was in the 9th grade when Buddy Holly crashed with Richie Valens and the Big Bopper. And forever, that has been a part of me. And I was the last guy they saw. And all the stories he told about Buddy were wrong. So I'd correct him. And I said, I'm doing a surfing movie called Big Wednesday. I got to go get in the ocean, but good luck on your movie. And it's funny how you can read something and really relate to it strongly. And you say to yourself, this was written for me. They knew I was going to read this script. They love it. They love me. You connect to it in a very confidential, courageous way that there is no wrongdoing here. It's not wrong. It's not even right. It just is as it is. And you are the center of the truth of that circle that that character gives you. Yay!
Over here, guys, process. You receive a script. How do you make that character distinctive? How do we hear their voice?
Sure, yeah, I mean.
This guy, let me say, this guy is so amazing in his commitment to a part. So I'll give you the floor now, go.
Thanks, Gary, I appreciate that. Well, I'll read, I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Well, when I get a script, I'll read a script a couple of times and I'll wait to see, I kind of want to be non-partial when I read it, and I wait to see if something kind of hits me. And then if something hits me, like what Gary and a lot of everyone else was talking about, then I use it as kind of like a kernel of truth, and I really just explore with my imagination. I love to find out what the viewpoint of the character is and what the viewpoint of everyone else is of that character.
How do you do that? How do you find the
Well, you know, it's kind of like being a private investigator. I kind of go through the script and I look at what all the actors say or the other characters say about my character. And then I look at what my character says about other characters and of myself. And from there I get to...
do you write this down? I mean,
I
for
write
these
it down,
guys, because we're taking notes.
Yeah,
Do you write
absolutely.
it down?
I mean,
Okay.
I write it down. Sometimes I don't write it down. Sometimes I go for really long walks after I read the script and I kind of process it, and then I start to actually engage my imagination as this character. So for instance, if I know that there's a character in the script that thinks that I'm a dick, you know, for lack of a better term, thinks that I'm a jerk or or, you know, dick or something like that. I know, that's not good.
Dick, so don't use
I
that
know.
word.
Like a jerk or whatever, I will imagine, if I meet up with someone in real life, I'll imagine that they're actually thinking that about me. So I'm engaging my imagination in my life, and then I'll start to get a sense of how they feel. And then I'll start, you know, if it works with the character or with the material, I'll start to incorporate behavior, or I'll start to do
What he
different
did,
routines.
what he did, by the way, the character he took on, he played this character with such commitment. He lost 62 pounds.
52.
50?
52.
He lost 52 pounds during the shoot, shaved his head on camera.
And
I
filed
was-
my tooth down.
No,
I should have done it.
You're not gonna grow that back.
No, it's cat.
That's called commitment without effort. And that's what you do when you play the part. You're not thinking about how you did or what's it gonna sound like or what your friends are gonna think. You just go from your heart and let it be. And I saw this kid do that and I went, I'm not in the ring alone anymore here. It's beautiful what James did. I just wanted to intervene.
Oh, I appreciate that. But
Intervene,
that's-
is that it? That's better than intervention.
You don't want that.
I agree with what, I agree with what he's saying. That's like, so key. One of the things I've learned is, and trust me, I've done it every way wrong, so you can kind of find out what's right. But keep yourself out of the scene. You know, as an actor, it was like, God, how many lines do I got? What do I get to say? No, keep yourself out of the scene at first and read it at least one time as an audience member, because it's the only time you're going to get a chance to really be surprised with what's going on in the script. And a lot of things will come to you. The other thing I started, and I'm dyslexic, so the other thing I started doing about 5 years, don't look at me like that. It doesn't rub off, man. No, it's like, another thing I started doing was, since writing's not my forte, I speak things out. I'll actually, a very famous acting teacher in LA taught me this. It's like, talk it out loud. Actually, Robert Duvall does this. And you talk it out loud. Like, well, why do I say that? You don't have to answer it. The script might answer it for you later.
That's self-questioning. That's
Yeah,
really good.
exactly. Yeah, it just like that. And
Part of
then-
the art.
Exactly, and then you just, you know, and then you just, from there, I pull out all the given circumstances. That's the things that are non-debatable. It's taking place in Brooklyn. It's taking place in, you know, it's a person died. That's all. And put all that stuff down in columns, and then that's kind of like almost a guide that I can use later on and say, okay, look, this character is like, okay, you know, she's from here, she's there, she's this, it's this, and you can use all that to then, because that's people, places, things, and events. And if I asked you what your high school was like, you have a picture of what your high school is like. Could be good, could be bad. So all those things that I've written down, those given circumstances, those are things you're going to have to, as an actor, as you're saying, personalize, create. And then I actually do that also, take it out in the real world. Because if I can go into Walmart, which is easy to do, and be as that person, however it is, and I feel comfortable improvising with whoever, man, I feel like I'm golden by the time I walk into that audition.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of goes back to what Gary said, is that you're,
Oh,
not,
yeah.
you're not
Yeah,
acting
yeah,
anymore,
remember?
right? It's
Gary, do you go hone your skills at the Walmart also?
Am I a Mormon?
Get creative.
Something real with it. And then you get to the point. This is silly. When you're acting, you don't think. You don't think, that'll get in your way, you'll stub your toe, and it's irreparable. Do not think, just be, just live, just breathe. And after a scene, and Rusty will tell you that, he's the director being, there's Rusty back there with a hat on.
There he is.
Directed and wrote Candyland, put the music in it. Let's have a hand. He gave me a comfort zone that was just beautiful, without effort. It was just beautiful direction in that way.
Gary, you arrive on set.
Thanks for interrupting me.
You didn't say cut.
You're right, I didn't say cut. But just going to, you arrive on set, and you've had a lot of things in your own personal life, bills or whatever that's happened. Then how do you get rid of all that?
You don't even take it with you. That is stupid.
How do you do it? How do you
You
make
just
yourself-
eliminate it. You say, I'm not gonna think about that. It's in the way. It's in my way. When you, as an artist, when you get in your own way, forget it. There's no finish line. You're dead before you end it.
Blank slate.
Or I think you can, I mean, stuff happens. Like I was filming last week and I found out while I was filming during lunch that my son had broken his wrist and dislocated his shoulder. I've not been there, you know, I've been there every time anything's happened to him. I was on location. I couldn't be there. So instead of it paralyzing me, like for sure it messed me up, but in my sick actor brain was like, how can this help me right now?
There you go.
And it does. Like
There
it
you
did
go.
feed into something that I was about to shoot. And you know, not that I'm glad that it happened, but if you do have those things in your head, you use it.
You can utilize those things that happen to you in your outer life like that when you're in the march, you know. In the march, I mean standing where the camera can focus on you, you can say your lines. That's incredible power. God bless you.
Jason, how do you construct? Do you get the script? How do you construct the character?
Well, you know, it goes back to why we all got into acting at the beginning, and it has to come out of a love for what you do. And I was a very shy, awkward kid who never really fit in. Got bullied a lot because I was big, blonde, and kind of a mama's boy. So I got beat up a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
Right.
I mean, you have that in your life that you can call on.
Yeah. And I know there's somebody who once said that, you know, acting should only be for the bravest of souls to like walk across the tightrope with no net below you. And that's kind of why I got into it, because the fear of falling, you just eliminate it from your mind and be able to do something that is so electrifying when it's real. When you're engaged in a real scene with acting and all the cameras and everything disappears and you can just explore this imaginary world, these imaginary circumstances. And I practice, I've got a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old. Every day we spend at least 2 to 3 hours just in imaginary games. And that's my acting training, you know. We do Star Wars, we do whatever, you know, whatever.
You ever make any things up, like on the spot?
Yeah, of course. And you know, have fun and just let them, their minds, the minds of children are so amazing.
They're free, they're pure, they're open, they're innocent, that's what it is. And that's what you get with your inner child when you play a part. Your inner child needs to be alive in you, so strong. Just like my inner child is so alive in me that I have a bumper sticker on my car that says, I'd rather be drooling.
Yeah, that's a no.
So yeah, I mean, that's a good point too. Like one of my acting teachers once told me, she said, you know, you have such a beautiful child spirit inside you. Don't ever fight for it. Don't ever let anybody make you grow up.
That's your inner child.
And some of the greatest artists that I know always have that little kid inside them.
When I was 12 years old, I saw Peter Pan. I didn't have to find my shadow because it was already there, but I decided I'm not going to grow up.
Yeah.
I can only fly, that'd be okay. That'd be, oh, Disney, God bless you.
All right, I want to open it up to some questions in the audience. We'll start with you.
As far as the directors and producers, what are your feelings on self-tape? How have you adapted to that? What do you think the strengths and weaknesses are of that?
What did you say?
Self-taping?
He's asking about self-taping.
You mean shoot yourself?
No.
Yes.
You know what I
So,
Yeah, I mean, it's a useful tool. It's like you can only see so many people in a room in a day, you know, and like most actors, they're working around the world, around the country, or whatever. So it's a necessity, you know. For me anyway, when you get to a certain point, you have to see them in a room. I never cast anybody off the tape. I did it once and it was a fucking train wreck. You know? Because it's like as we were saying earlier, it's like I don't want to be fooled. Like you could sit in a room with your homeboy and do that thing like 37 times. Like I don't know. You know? You could have been working on that thing for 3 days to get it right. But it's like, how are you on the fly? You know, when I'm giving you notes or I'm giving you changes, like, are you so set in something that you fall apart, or can you adapt? You know, it's about being adaptable, you know?
Well, I'm crazy for the self-tape. I do it probably equally as much as in person anymore.
Self-tape, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I do it all across the country. I put people in reality TV that are self-taped in Montana, and I send them to LA.
It's like, how else are we supposed to
And I
figure it?
Skype
Yeah.
with them and record that and send that to the directors. So, you know, I use technology. I squeeze every bit out of it and cut.
Boy!
The casting director is the only one who can do that.
Thank you. So I love self-tapes. And honestly, and I have cast so much off of self-tapes. I mean, I've had guys like pull over the side of the road and self-tape for me because this guy didn't show up on set or he's not going to show up tomorrow. And I'm like, hello.
What do you mean by self-taping it?
So they
Take your hands to the steering wheel?
They pull out their iPhone and they say their lines and they run that. They have a friend usually, so it's not a skewed view. But
A
it's
huge view.
so basically those little things you carry in your pocket, you may not because it's an iPhone or let's see, what do you have? All right, so they have great cameras in them and great sound.
I know.
And all you need is a little bit of lighting, a decent background, and somebody to hold it, and you can get a decent read. And like I said, when I've had epic fail from, oh, this guy's gonna, you know, go take this other job tomorrow, I'm like, shit. I've got to, so I had another guy literally pull over the side of the road, read the lines to me, and my director said to me, wow, Rose, that's amazing. This guy's better than the first guy that trashed us anyway. From the side of the road.
Boom.
So.
You know what George Lucas said? Long ago, just after the first Star Wars. He said pretty soon everybody's gonna have one of these and they'll be making their own movie.
Yeah, and they do.
It's happening now.
Point is, you have to have great sound, great lighting. You know, if you can have your own in-home studio or have a place that you go at the last minute and know how to package your stuff. You have to know how to use WeTransfer or Dropbox to get your information to me. Because the worst thing about the self-tapes is nobody knows what they're doing. So point is, you have to know, because I'll get these tiny little videos that are so squashed and so fuzzy that nobody can see it. And that's only because you pushed the wrong buttons. You didn't transfer it to your agent in the right way, and they didn't transfer it to me in the right way. So compression happens if you attach it to an email. You have to do it via a service like Hightail, WeTransfer. I'll be giving a seminar this summer, free seminars, so it will cover that, so you guys should all come to that.
All right.
It's free.
Questions from this side? Yes, ma'am. Nice to say that, nice and loud.
Okay, I have a question for the actors and a question for casting people. How often do you do breathing exercises before you go to audition or before you go on the floor? That's for the actors and the
Breathing.
breathing exercise.
We're all breathing now.
I mean, I have a classically trained background, so I abbreviated what I would do for a stage before an audition. It's like a batter getting ready to get into the batting box. It just gets me free flowing, you know, and I think it helps. It's just.
I'm trying to give you
I know, I
space.
understand. But that's just me. I think you got to do what floats your boat. You know, if you have a background, you want to do that, that's great. If not, but I do like that. I like that before on set. yeah, it kind of gets my head going in a direction I like it to be.
All right, yes, sir.
Other people.
This actually goes out to the actors, Lee, Gary, Jason. If you get a script last minute just for an audition, I'm not the best at memorizing real quick. So how do you guys go about doing quick memorization? So when you go in and do the audition, you're not going like
I
this.
gave you that answer 30 minutes ago. You go out and read the lines they're giving you to read, 3 pages to yourself. You read your lines that you're going to give from your character out loud. You read the next line silently. Read 20 to 25 times in a row. And you go back in, throw the script down, you say action, bam! You're not on the script. And they're thinking, hey, this is not bad. You get the job.
Well, also, I think that if you're, yes, I agree with that,
Go find
especially
it.
that many times. No, but it's true. But if you can't, I think it's just really important that when you're in that room, you're gonna be on book a lot of times. Just don't be looking at it. You should always know your first and last sentence, because that you can always get that first sentence off and be able to take it off. Really listen. There's no reason, even if you don't know your lines, to
You
not
made a
be
great
able to
point.
listen and respond in the moment. Bam, take the line up. There's no reason to
Listen
be
with your
facing
eyes
on
right
the
straight in
script.
the eyes of the
Yeah.
person you're reading with without blinking.
It's so
You got
horrible
it.
for me
Yeah.
to see
Yes.
you look at, I see the top of your head. It's not,
Just get
right.
rid of the script. Well, it's also about giving yourself the freedom, right? The freedom to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Because
They're
you
not
know,
mistakes.
if you make a mistake, you can't let that script be so make you so nervous. You're like, oh, well, I can't mess up. When I go into an audition, most of the time, I throw the script down on the floor before me and I jump on it and say, fuck you. To my script. That gives me the freedom, so I'm not chained to that damn thing when I come in, because it's about behavior. It's all about behavior when you're in there. It's about the interaction and the relationship that you have with whoever you're speaking to. And you can't let that, I love scripts and I love words, but when I go in, that's fuck you. I don't want you freaking making me nervous, so.
That being said, the guy who wrote those words could very well be in the room, so you don't want to do that right.
Not in the room. In the bathroom.
And you should remember most of your lines.
In the art world, a mistake is a gift.
Yeah.
And when you repeat the mistake, you make something happen out of something that feel good, feel great. Surprising.
But I find that a lot of times when I'm having trouble memorizing lines, it's because I don't know what the thought is. And once you get the framework of the thoughts, the lines come very easily. And it's exactly what Gary was saying, is if you are saying it out loud, there's the mechanical thing. You're hearing it, so you're more likely to remember it. But then saying it or thinking the other character's line silently forces you to listen in the room. And if you're listening, that's what it is. It's not trying to perform. It's not, I'm gonna do this when I get, it's not the planning. You can plan everything you want, but once you're in the room and a reader gives you something different, throw away everything you were doing before, and now you're listening. And if you're listening, that will generate the thought. And the thought will more often than not give you the line that you were memorizing. I think that's what it is. It's knowing the framework of the thoughts. It's the same thing with everybody up here who's done Shakespeare or classical theater. It's, if you don't know what that line in iambic pentameter actually means,
Unrhymed.
you're not going to remember the poetry. It's, you have to know what the thought is. And if a word or two is off here or there, well, not Shakespeare, but if a word or two is off here or there, more often than not, it's like you were saying, that's a gift. They're going to hear it in a slightly different way. You want to be as respectful as you can of the text, but it's about the story and, going in with the idea of what has changed for my character in this scene. What is the A to B? Why is this scene in the script? Every scene has to be there for a reason. Every scene has to be pivotal. Everything's a change. Everything's a different direction or a misdirection. Why is this scene important? And why did the casting director choose this scene out of all the other scenes? It's not just because your character is talking. It's because there's something about this scene that reveals. So if you figure out what that is, that's the detective work before you go in. If you figure out what that is, those thoughts are going to be in your head, and that's what we want to see, I think.
Let me give you the business end of that.
You always give us the business end.
I think that's what I'm here for, is to give you the thought on the other side of that desk, because you all have a lot in your heads, and you're creative, and I value the actor, but you got to know what's happening here. When he says, go off the reader, I'm hiring a 12-year-old to read, or whatever,
Have you ever acted in a play?
No, I am not an actress. I am a purveyor of the other side. I mean, what can I say? I'm business end. But the reader may not be giving you what you need in order to get through that scene.
That's
they
true.
may just be somebody sitting there reading the lines.
But you're not.
So I want you to keep with what you want as opposed to what that reader's giving you. That's what I would say to that.
But you're still going to, I guess you're absolutely right, you're not always going to be working with an actor on the other side of the table, but you will be hearing the line differently than you probably imagined it. And that's okay, that's going to throw you off a little bit, and you should be a little off.
Is this your own experience you're speaking of?
Oh, yeah.
Is this what I'm getting from you?
I'm impassioned about it, but I'm also caffeinated, maybe that's what it is.
But take your time, man. Take the pressure off of yourself. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have, just be truthful. That's the only thing they want in an audition. Take your time. If you have to go down to the page, go down the page. Take your time. You know what's really interesting? Watching what the person decide what they're going to do next. Take that advantage. And don't make the script a foreign object in your hand. It's part of you. It's part of the scene. Confidence sells everything, man. You're confident going in, you're at the top 10% right away, because so many actors are so fearful of, I don't want to screw up, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. And if you can't memorize it that quickly, I'm dyslexic, man. Just go with what works for you.
What were you saying? You were starting to say something?
Oh, I was just going to say, I 100% agree with what everyone's saying, and you just reminded me.
Well, thank you. We're
yeah,
good
you're very
friends.
welcome.
I thought you were acting.
Hey, I got you,
We
man.
gotta talk later.
Absolutely. No, but he reminded me of a famous Marlon Brando quote, and the quote is, just because they say action doesn't mean you have to do anything. And that's kind of like, taking your time. Just because they say action, actors tend to tense up. But just because they say action doesn't mean that you're not living in your truth, and you just take your time, breathe. Which goes to what you were saying before. I catch myself before a scene starts, take a breath. So many people, they're holding their breath in anticipation to do their scene and that's your life force, that's your creativity right there. So and then what everyone else says, I 100% agree.
All right, questions from someone new? Yes, sir.
These are for the actors. After a dry run, saying, you went from one audition to the other and you're in this dark place in your mind. What coaches you through that to the other side where you just keep on going, you keep on going?
I'm having a little trouble hearing you.
Yeah,
sorry.
can you explain that a little bit more?
When you've gone from one audition to another and you've heard like no, what gets you through that to the next
Right.
one? How
Just
do you
keep going.
You have to. If that's going to affect you, you're in the wrong business.
The audition
The
is the
future is
work.
yours. It's big, it's bright.
Hey, man, for that 5 minutes, you get to act, dude.
Yeah.
Take
And also work
advantage of it.
begets work. I
But
mean,
acting is
you
the
might do an
absence of
audition and not get that part, and then they'll call you 3 years later. I just got
get
something for someone that I thought had forgotten I existed, and I didn't even have to audition, and I hadn't seen them in 3 years. So you never know why you don't get that part or whatever. You can't, want to jump off a bridge because you didn't get a part. They might need someone that looks completely different than you or the producer's cousin.
Jump off a bridge?
Yeah,
Listen, I got something to say to her about bridges. The bridge that goes from St. Petersburg to Tampa, you can jump off that thing and fall in the Water Beach.
Want to go?
I want to film you.
And then hit a Walmart.
No, you're not going to hit a Walmart. You're going to wear the head of Woody Woodpecker. This is going to make sense to all people in the mental ward when they see your film. Woody Woodpecker jumped in the water. Oscar.
There's an audience.
All right, anybody else who has not asked a question, yes?
Well, we all go to characters that are unlike ourselves, but that is such an heavy character. This is a mass murderer that is teaching his daughter, training his daughter. So what did you do to train yourself for that and to put yourself there, especially knowing that you hadn't raised a daughter too, and you're in that situation of being a mass murderer and teaching your daughter?
Thanks, Mary Jane. I mean, it became kind of a cult thing, this Katie Bird. Real quick, so we won't, but found that, like Anthony Hopkins is great about finding the humanity. So it was a third-generation serial killer teaching his daughter to be a serial killer.
I am gonna move.
Yeah, which we all do. Which we all do. So what we did was just played it straight. Like a father who loves his daughter and teaching her just really bad things. And the script was so well written that and there's all these great monologues that once you just said them, it just worked. And so it wasn't so much about, it was creating a dark side and all the background of what you've done, but the thing that made it work was the love. And then I was taught a long time ago that, that's what you want to do. In every part, find, if you're playing a dark part, find the part that's good.
Right.
So he loved his daughter. Hitler loved his grandchildren. That's what Anthony Hopkins said when he had to play, how could I play this man? He saw him playing in a pool with his grandkids, and he said, well, that's how. And then when you're playing a good guy, find the vulnerability. But that's a quick answer of just be truthful, find the love, and everything else takes care of itself.
Good answer.
All right, another question. Okay, back to that.
When you have an audition and the character requires an accent and you haven't mastered that accent yet, you might have a little bit, should you do it with the accent, without the accent, or just not do it at all?
She's asking about an accent.
If you haven't mastered it, should you bring it into the audition room or not? Do you think you should? No.
I don't know.
No.
I'd go with that, yeah. If you haven't mastered it, just go without it.
You'll end up looking bad.
Yeah.
If you don't, I've had parts that I really, really want, and they're like, well, it's a Russian accent. I'm like, well, okay. And, I'll try so hard, but it doesn't sound right. And that they're gonna get a Russian to freaking play the part anyways.
Right.
And you're better off just saying,
Go with your truth.
no, I'm not gonna, audition for that. But.
Well, if it says like a southern accent, there's 15 southern accents. So
If it's a southern accent, there's so many.
So if you know one southern accent and you do it well, go for it.
Okay.
If you don't feel like you do it well, then don't.
The southern accent is also very close to the Britain accent.
yeah. But if it says Northern Tennessee,
Where it came from.
British.
Yeah, but how many people actually know the difference? Like, I'm from Nashville, so I know the difference, but most people southern. Yeah.
YouTube it. YouTube's great. You can find anything on YouTube if you've got the time to prepare. But I agree with these guys. If you don't have the time, it's better to look good, and hopefully they'll try to teach you. Yeah.
There's also a great resource called the International Dialects of English Archive online, IDEA, and they've been cataloging the way people speak for decades. And you can just go through and say, okay, I want somebody who's from this neighborhood in London, and then they're going to give you 5 different people reading the same Karma Gets a Cure. It's like this little speech, and everybody reads it, and then they talk about themselves. And so that's actually really great too, because then you hear the sounds from this text, but then you hear the people and the way that they use the language when they're actually talking about themselves. And that actually has helped me find characters that I didn't anticipate finding.
What was the name of that website?
IDEA, it's International Dialects of English Archive.
Yeah, they got it in all different age categories, male, female, everything.
All over the
It's
world.
great. Yeah, it's fabulous.
It's a research project, I want to say out of Kansas University.
Gary,
Karma Gets a Cure.
Gary, how do you play a killer? How do you embrace the dark side of a dark character without being
Okay,
repulsed
let's
yourself?
go to Lethal Weapon, where I played the part of Mr. Joshua. I build a backstory for every character I'm going to play before the movie starts. So that way, I can wrap the character around me. My heart comes to the character, and there's no action required. It's so natural and even. And here's root beer bourbon. Here is my backstory from Mr. Joshua. Mr. Joshua would walk through his mother's blood to get a postage stamp and never let her. That's how cold he was. I can fall into it right now. It was so much fun. To build the backstory of the character, and in 46 years of doing this, over 157 movies and events, the parts have chosen me. I haven't gone after a part. I'm just saying, hey, we want to see you on this. Okay, read, okay, good. You got it, okay, good, yeah. Good training, James Best, yes, I said that before. But the idea to research and think and find out everything before you go do it, that's not your honesty. That's not who you really are. Who you really are is you. Nothing but you. When you become your best friend, that's when you're paying attention. That's when you help others without effort. Every scene I do in a movie, that scene is for the other actor. I learned that from Duvall, Bobby Duvall. Make it for the other actor, and it works all the time. It works all the time. Plus you're giving them a boost. Makes the film better. Each film has a formula. A beginning, a middle, a climax, an end, and a resolution. Every film, every scene has a purpose for the purpose of that movie. You must understand the purpose of every scene, the purpose of the movie, before you can go to it and let go of all the research you've done and just be it. When you be it, there's no way to deny it. It's that safe.
Is there anything physical, like physical preparation for a dark character like Mr. Joshua that you have to put yourself
Well,
through?
we trained 1 hour a day, 1 month before the fight scene with 4 martial arts. Taekwondo, Capoeira from Brazil, Judo, Jiu-Jitsu from Brazil, and Jailhouse Rock, a martial art that was created in cells for very close fighting. And Mel and I, we did the fight scene for 5 nights, from 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. Full speed at night, and the water drops were about this long, about that big around. They were out of a fire hydrant. And they got some still shots of me and Mel laying in the mud, and we're spooning because the water's so cold. These guys should get a room with the water. It's a movie, it's a movie. Really. It's just a beautiful feeling of doing that way. The more you think, the more you get in your way. The more you get in your way, the more you lose your compass. When you lose your compass, you don't have a direction. When you don't have a direction, you don't have a destiny. When you don't have a destiny, what are you doing? It's that simple. Fight! Right there. Shooting there into the target. Zen and the Art of Archery. I read that book. Scott Glenn gave me that book to read. It's about a man from Germany named Eugene Hidalgo. And he went to Japan. He wanted to learn the art of Zen archery. So they sat him in a room with rice paper, feng shui, gave him a calligraphy pen, and he was to draw a perfect circle. When he got that perfect circle drawn where he could do 8, 10 in a row, they took him in. And what happens is, you take the bow, close your eyes, pull back on the arrow, and then the bow comes down on its own. Your eyes are closed, and the arrow looses itself. And his strike smack dab in the target every time. So I read that and said, oh my God, I'm the bow, and my expression of art is the arrow. So let's go Zen on this stuff. It's a good book to read, but nothing.
No, I'm not saying but. No, I want to add to what he said.
Funny but when you're near me.
As far as a physical approach, someone mentioned Anthony Hopkins before. He speaks a lot about Michael Chekhov, and that's a physical technique. And an example he gave in Silence of the Lambs is he decided that Hannibal was a cat and Clarice was a mouse. So every time you see them on film together, the reason why he becomes so still is because in his head, part of his preparation for that character is that he's preying on her, and he acts physically different with every other person in the film than with her, and that's another technique to look into if you are interested.
That becomes something else that you're not in order to comply with something you see that is not what you see, but it is what you imagine. And the thing about art is, don't let your imagination get out of control, because it can Just take my word.
No secrets there.
Gary, you've got all these actors out there. Whether they have one line with you or a couple scenes, what do you want from your support players, your supporting players?
That's not what I want from them, it's what I give them.
But what do you, what?
No,
what?
no, no, you got your things mixed up.
All right.
It's what I give them, not want from them.
Okay.
What I give them is what they want for themselves, and they don't know it because it comes with a surprise, it's unpredictable, and it's not planned. And you give that person that scene, and you got a rich scene that's gonna go for the purpose of the scene and the purpose of the movie. And you'll end up not ending up on the cutting room floor. We don't need that. It's beautiful to give. Giving is the secret because my mother always said, Gary, it's better to give than receive. And I would say, well, what about me? She said, you'll receive it later. But I know now she's perfectly right. God bless you, Rock. Thank you. It's beautiful, this artwork that we're all in. And it's scary and it's unpredictable. It's like, what am I doing? You know, you lose all those thoughts because those are your own thoughts that get in your own way, artistically speaking. Freedom. Facing real exciting energy developing out of miracles. And the miracle is a paradigm of freedom. And they're always falling down around you. Just reach up and catch them, put them in your pocket and say, got it made. It's lovely, it's fun. All of you have an Oscar in you. Every one of you here has awards in you. That's not what we're doing it. We're doing it to release what we have in ourselves, to give to others, to show them a character, a story, sad, up, joyful, whatever. Give it your best without giving consciously. And that is the target, like that Zen in the art of archery. I could go on and on about this, so I will. Okay.
All right, another question? Yes.
I understand there's no right or wrong way to act or audition. You just want to be fearless and be yourself. Aside from auditioning or acting, is there such thing as right or wrong way of promoting yourself as an actor?
What?
Is there a right or wrong way to promote yourself as an actor? For example, I'm an actor, and I have like my business card in like the men's restroom. So it's like when you're using the restroom, you're gonna see my card there. So I'm wondering, is there a right or wrong way? You guys say too far to promote yourself as an actor.
Well, the wrong way to do it is selling yourself personally. You know, prayer is good, so is spiritual connection to your angels and your spiritual guides because they will guide you where you are going. You know, you don't need to get in your way with self-promotion. It's not that it's wrong, it's not that it's right, it's just that it is what it is. You know, I see you have ambition, you have a great look, you have a great everything, as do all of you. So that's the key, that's what you got going for you. You are a treasure in your own body. You carry rainbows in your eyes.
Okay.
I don't think we're all right for that.
Hey! One more thing. You have a smile that will raise the dead. You have that going for you. And there's one simple word that is life. L-I-F-E stands for living in forever eternity. Because we don't die. Death, the word just spelled death. Don't expect a tragedy here. Just move on to another plateau with the guy. It's all part of the show. But you got that. No more cards in the bathroom. George Michael. There are two things you must eliminate in your vocabulary when you're talking about doing art. And that's kind of and sort of. Because that eliminates your power to follow your target and get the goal. Lose saying kind and sort of, because a listener who hears you say that knows that you don't have the energy to achieve an accomplishment. Kind and sort of. Excuse me? Sorry, touching you. Hey.
Gary, what other like key words should we be like action verbs or anything like that for the actors? That they
Well,
should...
truth is a good one. And truth, I'm gonna take the letters spelled truth and give you a definition. TRUTH stands for taking real understanding to heart. Because your heart holds all your truth, and your heart is the face of your spirit.
Have you made a book with all of your?
Yeah,
Another grade.
It's on the website. It's called Buseyisms.
The book is called It's called Buseyisms, which is my last name.
That's what I just said.
And I
Find
love
it on
the Buseyism. Here's one you'll love. Simple. SMIPLE stands for see it manifesting precious, loving energy. You just yawned. You have something to tell me?
Yes. I was wondering about your book of Buseyism. Is there going to be a photograph of each engagement ring you bought from Walmart?
That would take up the whole book.
What, do you want one?
I do. An extra.
Good one.
Nice and loud.
As a social media person, Gary, I noticed you're on Twitter, and he actually
What?
tweets a lot of these out. On
He said you're on Twitter.
What are you saying?
I see you on Twitter tweeting these out with the pictures.
What?
Do you manage your
Your
Twitter?
Buseyisms. How has social media worked for you?
Incredible. I am social media.
Write that down. Let's go to the Hollywood Reporter. I am social. Okay, yes.
You seem like the type that would visualize your life before it happened. Is that what you did before you became an actor? Did you Gary, because you're coming up with all these great sayings and stuff.
Who's he talking to?
You. Gary.
I didn't know that. Say it again?
I said, before you became an actor and all of this, did you visualize yourself in that spot? Because I met other actors and that's what they said they did, like The Secret, that movie, The Secret.
Yeah, no, never did that. Never did I do that. But one day, you know, I watched movies, and when I saw Samson Delilah when I was 6, I asked my mother, where'd all the people go? And she says, the audience goes out and another audience comes in to see the picture show. And I said, no, those people, I pointed to the screen. And she said, well, they go off and they make another picture show where we can come see it. And I said, that's what I want to do. And she said, you want to be in the picture show? And I said, no, I want to tell stories with light. That's when I got my mark from him. And acting, I never thought of it as acting. Acting, you know, there's a funny word, acting, because when I did that stuff, I wasn't acting. I would feel like I wasn't truthful if I was acting. That's why I say acting is the absence of acting. It's believing in the truth of the moment you're creating at that instant from your heart and your spirit and heart. Whoa.
Do you have an acronym for acting?
Huh?
Do you have one for acting? ACT?
Buseyism? Do you have a Buseyism for acting?
Will.
Just a minute. Why not?
He's gonna tweet it.
It's going in the book.
It's brand new.
All right, well, guys, let's thank Mr. Busey for coming in.